Right.
So I'm Gloriana, and I'm doing my presentation on hyperlexia. And I'm going to be having my PowerPoint in front of me in order to take, to use as notes. And I ask that if you want to follow along, please pull up the PowerPoint as well. So why I picked this topic? I picked this topic because it is something that I knew little about. I did not really know much about hyperlexia. All I knew was that hyper meant being really excited. And lexia I thought was like tying something to a learning disorder. And so I thought it was when your brain worked too fast. I was wrong. So hyperlexia is defined as a precocious, self-taught ability to read words which appears before age 5 and or an intense fascination with letters, numbers, Legos, accompanied with significant difficulty in understanding and developing oral language. And this comes from Robson. And so hyper means to do something over and over again to excess. And lexia, I found out, means to read. So excessively reading. So these are young children which are reading. Even without being taught, they are naturally picking up books and being able to read. And problem is, even though they are able to read it, they might not always be able to comprehend it. And so symptoms of hyperlexia. Ability to read at a really young age, even as young as 2 years old. So a child may appear gifted in some areas and extremely deficit in others. So these children know how to read. They know how to do numbers. But they do not have very good communication skills. And communication and comprehension skills. So even though they might read and do math, they might not always comprehend what they're doing. So significantly difficult in understanding verbal language. Again, these are visual learners. They have a hard time understanding oral speaking. And so they don't really understand verbal language very well. And because of this, they have very bad they're not very good at interacting and socializing with people, as well as they don't have a lot of very good social skills. They have abnormal and awkward social skills. They are, again, not very good communicators. They are not able to, they're lower in comprehending a lot of language. And so they will be more comfortable with books than usually with people. And because of this, they'll usually fear crowds, and they will usually fear talking in front of people. And they will get a fixation with letters and numbers. So types of hyperlexia. So there are 3 types of hyperlexia. The first type is reading early, but other students start to catch up at around 2nd and 3rd grade. So this is like the curve of reading for a regular student, like that. And this one speeds up really quickly, but then starts to level up around 2nd and 3rd grade. And because of this, the other students are then able to catch up. So they only have hyperlexia usually from 2 years old to 8 years old. The second type of hyperlexia is when hyperlexia is accompanied with another disorder. And sometimes sometimes it is the child has both these disorders, and sometimes it is hyperlexia is a symptom of one of these disorders. Usually this is autistic spectrum disorder. And usually, many times, hyperlexia is usually accompanied with autism. And the thing that the child which is obsessed about in their autism is usually letters and numbers. And then the third one is the child is an early reader and starts off with autistic traits, but is able to grow out of the autistic traits over time. So the child is usually scared of people, has very high visual stimuli, and usually has a bad time comprehending verbal language. Because of this, they usually develop traits that are autistic. And then over time, once they start to learn how to be around people, and they start, and if they're taught how to comprehend language as well as learn social skills, they are then able to outgrow a lot of these autistic traits. So, is hyperlexia a type of autism? Sometimes. So, hyperlexia is sometimes together with autism. And because a lot of people think that the child has hyperlexia too, and thinks they have hyperlexia and autism, they are usually misdiagnosed. And they're usually treated as an autistic kid when really the only problem they have is having to learn social skills. And they have hyperlexia type 3. So, I read a study about a child which had three other disorders prescribed to him because he was misdiagnosed and he was hyperlexia type 3. So they thought he was, so his mom knew he was hyperlexia type 3. But his doctors thought he had Asperger's syndrome. His teacher thought he had Asperger's syndrome. His doctor thought he had autism, and the special needs teacher at the school thought he had attention deficit disorder. And because of these 4 different ideas of what this child had, it was a hard time trying to find an IEP plan for this child. And there was a lot more problems than there really needed to. If you have a child with hyperlexia, ways you can help is write down directions. These kids are going to read what you write. If you write something down, they are going to read it. They are going to understand it better reading it than you speaking it, because it is harder for them to process verbal language. So they will be less frustrated, less stressed, and able to focus. So have a schedule in visual format with written directions. Again, these kids are visual learners. They need the schedule in a visual format. Keep walls as blank as possible in order to focus visual stimuli. Not all these kids are going to have this problem, but there's going to be quite a few which are going to have a hard time focusing their visual stimuli. They are going to want to look at everything. And if you have posters or things written on the board, they are not going to be able to focus on what needs to be focused. So having as few things on the walls as possible helps them focus. So have checklists for things that require lots of steps. Again, they are visual learners. Having the checklist in order for them to check off helps a lot. So label objects. This helps with comprehension of words. And also work with the child to learn comprehension. Ways that you can do this is teaching techniques that you can do is teach sequencing and cause and effect. Picture walk. Use directed reading / thinking activities. Have a visual map. Social stories. And also, there are other activities as well which help with comprehension and learning social skills that you can do with this child. And the important part is to help them learn comprehension and social skills, even if they are, and also to help not misdiagnose this child. Even if this child even do these things, even if you have the slightest hint that they might have this disorder, you might help a child which has the third or even the first one not learn how to get out of their bubble and be good in the world.